Mr. Jojo Fastrich Part 2. How are we doing? Are you there?
Yes. How do you like that entrance?
Yeah, that's showbiz.
Well, it is showbiz, so that's what it's all about, I guess. That's what they tell us anyway.
Yeah,
It's not all fun and games, though. I will tell you that. But
yeah, of
you
course.
it is what it is.
Oh, yeah, we're just going to talk about the fun and games today, though.
I knew that was coming. So how's your day been?
It's been good. It's
Good.
blessed.
Yeah. I'm a grateful human being. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad we met because we have a lot in common.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
So, how did you get started? Because your life is fascinating. How did you get started with the tech end of things? Tell everybody where that all began. How did
Okay, so we left my story last week. I rode off into the sunset with my chopper. That was about 2009. But the story real tells, we stepped back in the Wayback Machine
yes,
to when I first moved to Columbus, Ohio.
which
I
was due
learned how to drive. Well,
which was due to 3 Mile Island.
yeah, right. Yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So anyway, one day I was in this moving company that I worked for. I just moved here. It's like 81. And the guy comes to the window and he flips it open and he goes, "Who in here can drive a semi?" So immediately I raised my hand. So I'd never driven a semi, I'd driven a lot of straight trucks. And I got in, got the keys, took it. I got down the street that I had to move the people, but I couldn't back up because I didn't know how to do it yet.
Yeah.
But I got the stuff loaded, took it back to the shop. So I got a job after that hauling freight for this company because while I was playing, I needed a way to survive. I mean, I needed money to coming in. I wasn't going to rely on music back then because it wasn't enough money. So I drove a truck. I hauled everything from steel to you name it. I hauled it in a truck at one time. And I did that for a bunch of years. I was an owner operator and I owned a bunch of trucks. I didn't like working for people directly, so I always bought a truck and drove my own truck. And usually my trucks were nicer than the trucks they were providing us because some of the trucks they provided us.
I've seen your trucks. They're ridiculous.
Yeah, have you seen them? I think you have a picture of them somewhere.
Yeah.
I about killed them last night sending them photos, so we'll just deal with it. So,
Yeah.
but anyhow, I'll keep going with the story. And well, that's Stage Tech. That was like after I had started driving a truck. Um, Stage Tech was down the road, and I had not done a whole lot of production at that point. I was just a driver.
Yeah.
So I ended up taking the job with them. Like after that, Stage Tech in the '90s, after I'd come back from LA with my tail between my legs, and they gave me a tour, and the first tour I went on was Whiteheart. It was a Christian band, Christian rock and roll band.
Okay.
Yeah, me out with a Christian band. I did it. Sorry for them. So anyway, but I'm Christian, so that's kind of a joke anyway. So I worked there, and at the time they were called Stage Tech, like it said on that truck. I was young there
Yeah.
when you showed that picture, and we hauled that all over the United States. I mean, we went everywhere, and it was fun. I mean, I had a good time. So that's what got me into driving for production. It was
Mhm.
like, I like this a hell of a lot better than hauling freight. So I ended up doing that. And then the owners of the company, when it was Stage Tech, Rusty Rainey and a guy named Dave Mead, formed a company called Live Technologies. And I was a part of that. I mean, I was working there then. They decided to make me a fleet manager there to take care of the trucking part of the business.
Mhm.
I sold their old trucks and I got them a fleet of Penske, but they were decal Live Technologies. And, um, you know, it was rough scraping the stickers off. We put them on, and then, I started driving a lot more with them, and they got bigger and bigger. They were growing quick. I mean, they were a Midwest sound company that wasn't very big that started growing. I mean, they got huge real fast.
Yeah.
So then they bought these new stages. They're like mobile stages. It's like a portable stage that, and I might have a picture in there somewhere of the where it would be in the Stage Tech or Live Tech file. But they look like a semi truck when you pull up, and you have to get certified to run them because uh, it's none of those trucks there. Let's go to nope, nope, nope. Yeah. All right. We'll find it anyhow. So go ahead. You can take that down for now. I sent him pictures out of whack, so it's my problem. I'll just talk. So anyhow, I got certified to do the SL250, which was state of the art at the time. I mean, nobody had these mobile stages. It takes half the time to set up. So me and my friend Dan Troop, I hired Dan to help me, and I was still their fleet manager. And I got certified to run this stage. It was like running a bulldozer. The sides opened up, the floor dropped down, it raised up, you could level it. You had to know how the hydraulics worked. It was hydraulic. And, I went to school for it. So I was able to run it. And man, we took that stage everywhere. Every winter, we would go down to Tampa and do concerts in Tampa over the winter because, it's cold up here. And I know it's cold where you're at for sure because I lived over by that way.
Yeah.
Right? And we call it Pennsyltucky, but I'm just
That's what
joking.
we call it too.
Yeah, right.
Philadelphia on one end, we
Yeah,
have Pittsburgh on the other end, and Kentucky in the middle.
Pennsyltucky,
Yeah.
right? So anyhow, that stage, we took it down to Florida a lot, and we did Guavaween Fest, which is in Ybor City, which is in Tampa, and we used to run it back and forth to Ohio when we weren't using that. And then finally we decided just to stay down there. We stayed with my cousins, the Harveys, David Harvey and his family. And I was telling you the story, man. I would just pull up in a semi on the street, which was all old people, park, get out, walk in, and go. I was spending the night, and they would be like, "Oh boy."
Yeah.
Could you imagine that? I mean, I didn't think about it back then, but
Yeah.
I guess that was kind of crazy. But we'd always find somewhere to park it, and he's a sheriff now.
Yeah.
And they always took good care of me. And my friend Dan Troop, who was my buddy that was a truck driver, we used to team back and forth between Florida and, Columbus, because once we would get done a show, we would have to be back in Columbus. So we'd have to drive straight there with two of us driving. We could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see Dan much anymore. He's a really good friend of mine. He worked there for a while. And then one other time we took that stage, me and Dan headed to California with it for an opening of a big department store, and they had bands in front. And we pulled in with the stage, set it up, and we were waiting for the techs to get in, and the plane flight was late, and they weren't going to get in time. So me and Dan and the stagehands that were there set that whole thing up, turned it on, turned the lights on. And when they got off the plane, they went straight there, and boom, the show started. They didn't have time to do anything. They looked at us like, okay, these guys must know a thing or three about setting sound systems up.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, at Live, I spent a lot of time on the stages. I ran sound there a couple times. I didn't run sound a lot. I knew how to run sound, but I had other things to do that were more important, than running sound. And there were more things that were in my forte because, with semi trucks, when you own them, I couldn't always afford to take it into a shop. So I'd have to rip it apart in my driveway, fix it, and then go back out on the road for another week and drive 2,500 miles with it. So I kind of have, that's another thing that I do is I'm kind of a mechanic.
I was going to say mechanical reasoning.
Yeah.
First of all, and I think I've said this to you before, drummers in general have more mechanical reasoning than I do. Like, I'm a novice drummer.
Yeah.
The whole tearing a thing apart, and it's like you tearing your set apart and all that kind of business. And I told Kyle Kelly the same thing. So, but you guys, I don't know if it's a drummer thing that with your mechanical reasoning abilities are far beyond mine.
Well, I find it to be that way.
You would think to tear apart a truck. I wouldn't even think to do something like that. That's beyond my.
Yeah. Well, it was beyond my end too, man. When you got an N14 diesel motor taken apart in your yard or your front driveway, and you're trying to put it back together so you can go back out on the road. But if I took it to a shop, it was like, it was always $1,000. I mean, I could sneeze, it's $1,000. I was like, oh, come on, man. So I worked on a lot of my trucks. So I was with that company, Live Technologies. I actually worked there in 2019. I've worked for them on and off most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Rusty was a really good friend of mine. Dave Mead, a good friend. I toured with Dave on a play with Robert Goulet. I think it was called The Fantastics, and I drove on that with him. And I've been on and off there. I was a warehouse guy there that, we loaded the trucks to go to shows. And what people don't realize, when you load semis for shows, every little microphone, every little piece needs to be inventoried and put on the truck for the concert. And if it doesn't get there, you send a chase truck, which that happened at Live more when I wasn't there than the guy that took over. Not that I'm dogging him, he does his job really well, but it's a real difficult job at times. Because some of these trucks are going clear across the country. Imagine forgetting, oops, I forgot that microphone or whatever.
Yeah.
So, they'd give us a list every day and we would load them. And a couple of years ago, I went to the warehouse and I worked. And I liked working there, but it just didn't cut it for me. I wasn't doing shows anymore, which is what I really love to do. I mean, I don't mind pushing road cases, laying feeder cable. I'll do any of it, any day of the week. So I was there on and off, and I met them at the Alrosa Villa, which is even real wild. They came in there to do a show, and in 1990, I talked to them about driving for them, and I went from home freight to them. And I don't know, it was a great experience. And then I'll move along in the story a little bit. I'm still on the motorcycle leaving Claremont County, but while I was in Claremont County, I drove for a company that I had met through Live called Pyramid Productions. Gretchen Wilson, I did Gretchen Wilson. I did, let me think on that stage, Primus, a bunch of bands. They had 2 stages. And these stages were Stage Line. It's a company out of Montreal. I got the pass from it. It's Stage Line.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bigger stage, and that's the one that Primus played on. That's the one that we took that stage all over the place.
Yeah.
And, Gretchen Wilson, I'll tell you a little story about that, and I'll tell you more about, I did a show with her at Joliet Speedway one time with that huge stage. We set it all up, and they said there were tornado warnings, and we're like, that's interesting. I was like, anybody in the bus have the radar on? And they came back and said, well, yeah, the tornado's heading straight for us. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I got to get the speakers down to the ground, drop them down because they were flying. We've got to get this stage so that it will make it through whatever. It wouldn't have made it through a tornado, I guarantee it. So we hung out that night. There was a tornado. It was really close to us because the field where the concert was got destroyed. Everything. It was gone. We woke up the next morning, walked down the stage, and I looked. I was like, where is everybody? Where's all the stuff that was out here?
Yeah.
And Gretchen Wilson hung out with me and my friend that night. I mean, she was there. It wasn't like we were all sitting in a circle. And she got up the next morning and decided to do the concert. And they put the outside area together, and the concert went on. And it was a great show.
Explain that to me was really endearing of her. That all these people expect a concert, and I'm not going to let them down.
Exactly. That's exactly what she said. She said they came here, paid, they spent the night in campers, they braved that tornado.
Yeah.
And we survived it by just tying stuff down, and we dropped the speakers to the ground. There's not much you can do other than that, because if a tornado comes through, any stage would go, out. So while I was with them, we got a call from Luke Bryant, and he was shooting a video at his house in Alabama. And at Pyramid, we loaded the truck. We went down there. I got to the farm. It was a muddy mess to take semis on. There was already a mobile stage there, and I loaded in the production for that. We hung out there during the day. He was really cool. Like, he kept coming up. He kept calling me the roadie from hell, and and we were joking, and because I like metal, and he knew it because of the way I was dressed and the way I look, but we had a good time, and I got a picture with him because basically he came up and asked for a picture because like I said, they were calling me the roadie from hell all day, and it was kind of a fun experience because then I ended up in the video Corn Makes Whiskey driving a forklift, and I didn't even know it. I mean, I had no idea I was in the video, nothing. And they did the show that night. It rained like hell. So we all packed up because the next day, the rest of the video shoot was in Georgia, where he's from. And we're taking this production into a high school stadium.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about it, I started to think, man, I bet they're not used to semis on that. And I bet they're so we drove all night, like the Silent Army does, We drove all night. We got there in the morning. We pulled in, and I walked up and looked at this gate that I had to go through. I was like, "Oh man, this is where it starts." And then the guy's like, "You can't drive on the rubber track." And I'm like, "Well, if I drive in the grass, you're not gonna have any grass." So we drove on the rubber track. So trying to get through the gate, I scraped the trailer. It wasn't too bad. I don't think anybody was too upset with me, considering I got the truck onto the property. And he did the concert, and he shot footage at the school for the video, and I don't know, he was real cool. I mean, he was young in the business. I got him when he first came out, and again, we had a real good time. I was wearing dime bag shirts around, and I had a beard, and we had a good time hanging out with them. They were totally cool. Their crew was totally cool.
What are we talking?
So I don't know. So that I worked for them while I was in Claremont County, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit before that to upstaging. See, I'm wearing the upstaging shirt.
Yeah.
And I catch a lot of shit from people because they're like, JoJo and his upstaging shirts. And I always think, I've respected, I deserve to wear this shirt. I've worked for it. I've spent a lot of nights behind the wheel in a truck late night, tired as hell, after building stages. So 2005, 2006, I was driving for Budweiser in Columbus, which is over here not too far from me. And I got a phone call from somebody. My friend Dean Tomzik was on the tour, and they said, "You know any truck drivers?" He said, "Yeah, JoJo, for sure." He's like, he's a production driver. He's driven for Live Technologies.
Yeah.
So they told us I was hired, and I was with another driver at the time. She was driving her own truck. Her name was Peggy. And when she pulled in behind me after we delivered the stuff that we delivered in Michigan, I said, "You want to go on Ozfest with me?" And she goes, "You're crazy, old man." She goes, "There's no way that I'm going to be on Ozfest driving for Ozzy Osbourne." I was like, "Yeah, you are." I said, "Do you want to go or not? I'm not going to ask you one more time." And we both quit, got on a plane, went to Chicago, and picked up 2 brand new Peterbilts and headed for San Francisco. And when we got there, we pulled in, and we were like the new kids on the block, but I'd been driving production forever. I mean, they thought I was the new kid on the block. I was hauling beer before I did that. So anyway, I pulled in, and we went in and met the lead driver, and the lead driver was this man named David Heath. Now, David Heath is, and I'm going to say this, and I mean it, he is the best lead driver upstaging's ever had. I mean, people don't realize production driving, when we got to a place, we weren't allowed to look in our mirrors, and I was a freight driver, so I was always looking in my mirrors. When we backed in, we had to listen to the radio, and they would back us in, and you couldn't look in the mirrors. If you did, they would cover them. That's, isn't that weird? You're trying to back in a dock. But I learned to trust this guy because he's like, "JoJo, cut it to the right. JoJo, cut it to the left. A little bit of driver, a little bit." Bam, and I'd hit the dock. I was like, "Man, how does he do that from outside the truck?" But he did. He talked me in. And I learned a ton from David on that tour, man. I learned how to load differently, 3 tiers, 2 tiers. And Like he was someone I really respected. And me and Peggy did that whole tour. It was a 26 truck tour.
Okay.
It was a lot of stadiums. We were all over the U.S. We went to Canada. Um, and it's enormous. Like going down the highway at night, 26 of us, 40 tour buses, plus the sideshow, plus the other stages. And when we would converge on an area, it was like all of a sudden these trucks and buses would pull in, and it was like, here we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed there for quite a while until that tour ended, and we had Charlie Hernandez, which was big with Aerosmith. He was our road manager. Dougie Worst, which was with Phil Collins, several other people. And I know I'm name dropping, but dude, it's part of my story. And
That is absolutely a part of your story. So don't even apologize. We need
yeah,
to.
right on. I mean, I don't want to come off like,
No,
but
this
it's
is
not
what
exactly.
you did.
Everybody wants to hear the story, and I'm telling it. So
Yeah.
here it
Not even an issue.
is. Right, Rod?
An issue.
Yeah. Isn't Rod's beard? I love your beard. It's cool as hell. When you sent me that picture in the mask earlier, I was like, damn, that is rock and roll right there. It was funny. I was cracking up. So here we are. I'm still with this company, Upstaging,
Yeah.
and I left Ozfest and they split me and Peggy up. And I went out on Sheryl Crow and she went out on Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers 30th anniversary tour. And I'll tell you, man, driving for Sheryl Crow was probably one of the best times of my life. She was super sweet. I got to know them really quick. Like it was weird. Like I got on the tour and I got along with everybody real fast. And, we used to park out by the buses and she would always be walking her dogs. I ran into her a lot. She knew who I was. I mean, I'm kind of unmistakable at times when, and I'm not being weird about that, but I have my own look. I don't give a fuck what people think.
Yeah, it's obvious.
So I ended up touring with her with John Mayer. It was I forget the name of the tour. I have the pass right here, so maybe I should just look at the pass and it'll take it back. This was the tour it was on right there.
All right.
And they would co-headline. And, we went all over with that. And so I stayed there, I don't know, a couple more years. I drove a tour, a small couple dates with James Taylor, which that was wild because he was the one-man band. And when we went in the catering in the first theater, I was like, I didn't want to sit down with them to eat because, I really didn't know him. But he came over and said, come down, sit here and eat with us. You're part of the crew, eat with us. So I did. And it was just interesting listening to some of his stories because he has some backstories like mine a little bit,
Oh my God.
drugs and whatnot.
Yeah, no, he was a hellion. Most people don't know that about him, but
Nope.
he went through a lot of neuroses.
Yeah, and I love James Taylor.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he was clean, I was clean, and out on the road with them. So I did. At the end of the James Taylor thing, I was getting kind of tired of being gone all the time. My second marriage was definitely boom, it was over. So I just needed to come home and get my stuff and get out of there. And that's what I did. So the next part of my chapter, I mean, I kept driving trucks. I just wasn't hauling entertainment and I was staying closer to home. I was riding my motorcycle more. And I got involved after I got back to Columbus with this show. Somebody gave me a call and they were like, do you know where we can find production for War and Fishbone? And I'm like, you talked to the right person. So I called Live Technology. I was probably working for them at the time, but we rented their gear. And Skatopia, for people that don't know what it is out there, it's a skateboard park. It's really wild. This guy built a skateboard park in like Gallipolis, Ohio. That's swimming pools, pipes, but the dude's a real outlaw skateboarder. I mean, he's kind of out there. He knows Tony Hawk real well, and so I decided to do the show with this other dude. We had contracts, we signed them. So I took this production out to Skatopia, and they told us they had a stage. Yeah. You're shaking your head because I think you've seen pictures of it. It was plywood with 2x4s with steel. It was not going to hold 3,000 pounds worth of lights, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, when I first got there with the trucks, I was like, you told me you had a stage and you sent me something else. You sent me a picture or something. Was that not your stage? And he's like, oh yeah, we tore that. They never had a stage. The second stage was a mobile home they tore the front out of, and they had a stage to come out of that. That's another story that I'll tell you during the story. So we did the show because I decided that with the band, I went in and talked to Brocky from Gwar, and I'm like, what do you want to do? I said, if you walk away from this right now, I'd be totally cool with it. I understand. He goes, we're here. We want to do the show. Make it happen. So we ground stacked everything. We turned the lighting trusses sideways, and they liked it. I mean, they were able to build their Gwar set around it. It was out at night. The night before that was Fishbone. They headlined that night, and they were wild. I mean, it was a wild night.
One of my favorite.
Go ahead.
It's one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, and
Norwood.
Go ahead.
Norwood.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I had never heard of them, but I was blown away how good they were. I mean, I was blown away how good they were. We had other good bands on the bill. We had a punk bands, metal bands. So anyway, the night of Fishbone, I had preacher Larry running monitors, and he was the preacher at the church that I showed you them pictures I was playing the drums in.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I'll go do monitors with you. And I'm like, oh, he doesn't know what he's getting into here. So we set up, and he was doing monitors for Fishbone, and they're coming over and they're throwing joints at him, lining coke up on the top of the soundboard. And Larry calls me, and he's like, yeah, you got to come back here a minute. So I walk back, and I told you the other day during this whole show, I carried a Colt 45 strapped to my leg because the guy that owned the property, the skateboarder Bruce, I'm not going to say his last name because I don't want to give him any credit. He stiffed me for a lot of money. I carried a gun all day that day and went back to Larry, and I was like, what the hell's going on back here? And he goes, oh man, he goes, it's out of control back here. He goes, they got people everywhere. They're drunk, you know. And so I kind of had to talk with the road manager. Like, you got to settle down, man. I'm like, this guy's a preacher. It's bullshit what you're doing. So they did. I went back to soundboard, but while I was back there, I was looking at the power amps, and the sound guys running them in the red the whole time. So I walked back to soundboard, and I warned him. I said, you need to turn it down. I said, because you're going to blow up the shit, and you got it as loud as you can get it, and he wouldn't do it. So I asked him a second time. I said, dude, turn it down. I don't want to pay for the equipment. Turn it down. So he wouldn't. He looked at me and gave me a shitty look. So I put the 45 in his ribs. I said, you hear me now? I said, turn down.
Mm-hmm.
Turned down. I never had a problem with him. He was cool the rest of the night.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why, but I don't know.
Which comes
So we did load out, and the guys from Live were freaked out the whole time they were there because they burnt down the second stage after the bands went on. They burned it to the ground. I paid Brocky and them in the tour bus. They were thankful that we did the show, and off they went. And I'd run into them after that a lot. It's just like it repeats itself. So at the end of the night, I'm leaving with the truck, and the guy gives me a check. This Bruce skateboarder, and it was for 10 grand, which he owed me. And I took the check back, and I checked it when I got home, and it was bad. And I was like, oh man. So I tried to go down there and collect it with some bikers, but we got ousted by the local police. And I just gave up on collecting from him because this guy just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm going to cut my losses. Next time I do a show, I am going to drive out and meet these individuals before I do a show. My bad. I just didn't, I don't know. I had a bad feeling about it from the beginning, if you know what I'm saying.
So, you're a Harrisburg guy, right?
I am. Well, New Cumberland.
New Cumberland. Do you remember Thunderdome in New York?
I do.
Okay. Have you ever been there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And Thunderdome in New York City?
No, Thunderdome in York.
No.
That was a skateboard park. That was a skateboard park.
I've heard of that,
Yeah.
actually. There used to be a bar in New York That was a famous rock and roll club my friends all used to go to, and I went down there a couple times. I forget Hammerjacks or
That's Baltimore.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, Thunder. We had jackhammers in New York.
That's what I'm talking about.
Jackhammers.
And I have a funny story about that. Sweet Savage went in there, and their lighting guy turned the lights on, and the sprinkler system went off.
No, no, that is Swizzles.
Yeah,
That's Swizzles. I was at Swizzles.
yeah, yeah. So it was an oops. And the lighting guy that did that's a real good friend of mine. His name's Randy Groves. So, Randy, if you see this, I'm sorry, brother, but I love you.
Yeah. Swizzles.
Yes.
I saw some Swizzles. Everyone knows because
Oh yeah. It was a famous place back in the day. I mean, a lot of bands played there. They played the Metron and Harrisburg. There was a bar in Red Lion, actually. I can't even remember the name of that. It was smaller, but I saw a lot of good bands there. A lot of good bands.
Countryside.
That's exactly what it was called.
Yeah, that burned to the ground.
Yeah. Wow. It doesn't surprise me. That place was a little rickety.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was pretty rickety. So after Skatopia, I was back more in Columbus, and I was working a Miley Cyrus show, and we unloaded the trucks, and she had a set piece that she flew around on a hot dog. I wish we had pictures of it, but
we do have pictures of it.
Yeah, and unloading it, our crew didn't do it. We were at the Schottenstein Center. Somebody scratched it and dented the fiberglass, and the red paint. There it is. That's the famous hot dog.
Yeah.
And that is Greg and Nicole Rashawn from Custom Collisions in Goshen, Ohio, which is down south. But that's after we repainted it. They repainted the metal flake red and the hot dog bun. And then I got to take them for a walk on the underside of the stage, because a lot of people don't know in these stages, there's an underside, like an underworld, where cars that are set pieces and stuff like that. So I walked them around. They couldn't believe all the sound equipment under there where they tune guitars. Like, you don't see this stuff, but there was underneath the stage, it's an underworld. It's the silent army dressed in black down there doing their jobs.
Yeah.
So they got paid to come up. They had 2 hours before showtime to paint that, and she flew through the auditorium in that helped they painted it. We made it dry real quick, and they went back on their way. They made good money off it. When I was a little destitute in Cincinnati, they helped take care of me, and I'm gracious for it today, and that was my payback. So that's my Miley story. It was kind of fun. It was kind of something different, but yeah. Okay. So then I started working with a company, and they're a huge company in the United States. They're called Rhino Staging. Rhino, like a rhino bull.
Yep.
And we got on with Rhino, and we did the Stones. I'm trying to think of when that was now. My mind slips me a little bit. I think it was around 2012-ish. And it was a big production. I mean, it was massive. I mean, but I hadn't seen massive yet, because you know what Taylor Swift put us through. So we built that Stone set. Oh, go ahead.
You build a city.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You listen to any Taylor Swift? I like her. I think she's a great artist, but I think her production
more about her country stuff than her pop stuff.
Right on. I think she's a great artist.
Yeah.
She's innovative. The stage we loaded in, they had bracelets that went with the lighting rig in the stadium.
Yeah.
So the Rolling Stones, I'm going to go back to that. I got to work with the crew on the Stones, and me and Randy, my friend Randy Groves, that's been in the business, he's worked for the Stones on and off, and Billy Temple were hanging around, and their drum tech's like, I need someone that knows drums to come with me. And I was like, everybody's like pushing me that way. So I went up on stage, and I think I have a picture of that in there somewhere. I helped set Charlie Watts' drum set up, and it was the old Gretsch kit that he's had forever.
Okay.
And I was like, these guys have been like I love the Stones, and I'm setting the guy's drums up. Not that it was a big deal, but
Oh, that was a big deal. It's Charlie Watts. Come on, please.
yeah. And I'm pulling these drums out, and they're all scratched up. Boy, they sounded great. They were Gretches. And the drum tech let me sit behind the drum kit and take a picture of facing out in the stadium. And I was like, man, what a view that these guys have on that massive stage, looking out and I don't know. It was like a fun time, but that load in for that big stadium, which is OSU, is difficult because there's 2 tunnels. You can't get semis onto the field.
Uh-huh.
So you have to drive flatbeds in. So most of the time, me or a couple other people will drive flatbeds out to we call the boneyard where all the equipment is, down this tunnel and out onto the field. And we do that like I must have probably did that 300 times. I mean, all day long, all night long, all the way till every piece of that stage and equipment was out of the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's tedious. Those stadium shows take an army. I mean, it's amazing how many people it takes that are steel guys that climb steel, all the way down to technicians to, nobody sees that silent army. Those guys are climbing around 300 and 400 feet.
Before you, I didn't know that existed.
No, it's only
yeah, I never heard
of steel at some of them arena rigs like that. It's probably about 100 foot, maybe 150. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is.
Uh-huh.
And they're crawling around up there. It's a dangerous job. I mean, the riggers, I have nothing but respect. I don't like heights, so I always stay on the ground. And the Stones, just working for them, we had Kid Rock that day, and he came in, and we ended up setting up for them, and it was an awesome show. I mean, I don't know, I had a good time that day since it was the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
And I probably screwed you up with them pictures, man, because I am not good at computer stuff. So I am, but I'm not. So I don't know. It's okay if we don't see them. I'll tell you what, Rod. I'm going to move to Taylor Swift. You might be able to find pictures of that easy.
Taylor Swift I can find.
Yeah, find the Taylor Swift. So I'm going to move along to the next stadium tour we did. It wasn't really a tour. I worked again on the Rhino crew. And Taylor Swift comes in, and she's got 80 trucks, 80 semis. I mean, millions of tour buses, flatbed steel trucks. I mean, it was one of the biggest productions I had ever worked on. And I drove a flatbed on that, and that took us 4 days in of driving steel, every bolt, every piece of that steel through those tunnels, which was the tunnel also has this, it's a curved tunnel, so you can't fly through it. If you're in a flatbed with steel on the back, you'll dump it. So you kind of got to go down it. Okay, I didn't always. I changed stuff down, flew down the curve. We went out in the field, and the cranes unload it, and then they erect the steel structure. I mean, and these things, I'm telling you, they look like, by the time we got done this set, it looked like we had built a ship, literally like a huge ship in the middle of this field. It's like the amount of time and effort, like all these people put into that. People don't see it. People think you go to a concert, there's a stage. No.
Yeah.
People like me and my friends spend a lot of time building that stuff so people can enjoy these concerts. Again, the Silent Army. We love doing what we do. It's in our blood.
Yeah.
So, that stage came from Germany, and they had 2 of them that traveled that flip-flop state to state because it's such a massive build, it would take them forever. And, the 4-day in part, yeah, there it is. If you look at the people in that picture, look how small they are. And that thing has more steel on it than anybody could ever imagine. That's a huge video wall. I don't know if there's any more in that file. See if you can click through. Nope, that's not it. But go ahead. We'll see what you got. Nope, that's not it. All right. Well, you saw how massive the stage was. So go ahead and click out of the pictures. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. See, I sent the pictures kind of wacky, and I kind of made Rod sweat a little bit. But Rod is a professional. I can tell, right, Rod?
Right. Exactly.
I mean, he knows what he's doing. That's why we're doing this. We want to tell stories about the industry, how we got started. So that thing was massive. So during the tear down of that, which it took 4 days again, and we had 2 days to get it out, 2 solid days to get it out. And I'm talking about 24 hours. Like when I loaded it in, I went home to sleep for maybe 4 or 5 hours. I was back driving that truck in and out of that stadium. I also loaded in production, which once the band got there, I flatbedded all that stuff in. So when the loadout, which is when the band's leaving and they're getting to go somewhere else, we were loading it out. And I did the same thing backwards where, I drove around and we loaded the crane and took it up to the boneyard. And it's just like, it's tedious because you're doing the same thing over and over. I loaded out production the night before, and it took till 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had to be back in that truck at 6. And I hadn't had much sleep. After I did the production and I was there for 2 days, I got out of that truck and I came home, and I think I probably slept for a day straight. Like I was freaking exhausted. There were a lot of broken toes on that. There were a lot of finger problems. One of the riggers got down from the steel because our supervisor at Rhino didn't like what he was doing, and he punched him and knocked him out and sent him to the hospital. So we had another guy take over the crew after he beat up our boss. It was a fun day. And
The boss got
oh,
his ass beat.
what?
The boss got his ass beat.
Yeah. The guy from Rhino got punched in the face and it knocked him out. And he still to this day has head problems. The dude was big that hit him.
Okay.
But because we were so exhausted loading it out, because load in took 4 days, and here we are on our second day loading out. And every piece, every bolt. So when you go to a concert and you go in, especially at OSU Stadium, it all rides down on a flatbed, rides back up to the trucks. We did on that particular show with a massive stage like that, what they call in our industry, the fastest loadout they've ever done. Mm-hmm. Like we blew that stuff out of that stadium. I mean, it came out of there right now. And I think Billy Temple, which I need to mention Bill, he was one of the drivers on that. And Bill's a dear friend of mine. One of the drivers was Kyle Kelly. He was on it. Jason Nelson. Joel drove for a while. There's a bunch of us, and we were trying to rotate. So, I mean, the massive productions like that, people just don't realize, that we give it our all so these people can go up on their stage and have a great show. It's just how it works. So then that's one of the stages right there at that venue that we did. That's outdoor at the stadium, and you can just see how many speakers there are. I mean, there's a few speakers there, don't you think? There's a stack behind that. The steel that holds that together, I hauled, me and Billy right there, Billy Temple, we hauled probably every speaker, every cable into that building on a flatbed.
Yeah.
So it's a tedious job, but when you get it in your blood, sometimes you just can't get it out, man. I've never been able to shake it, and I'm 60 years old.
Yeah, which is and that's Billy Temple.
That is Billy Temple right there, and he's a legend in the business, man.
Let's talk a little bit about Billy Temple.
Huh?
What is his pedigree? Where did he come from?
Billy Temple came from the gods. Billy Temple worked for Vinnie Vincent. He's tech for so many people. When Dawkins came to down recently, he teched for them. He's a guitar tech, but Bill also can build stages. And he's not a very big dude, but man, he's incredibly, his work ethic is insane. And he works like I do. We get focused and we just focus. It's what we do, man. It's kind of that industry. But yeah, that's Billy right there, man. He's a good friend of mine and Kyle's. So that there, we'll talk about that since you got it up.
Mm-hmm.
That is Sonic Temple 2019.
So that is that
What
the
that?
is that the call?
No, that's the name of the festival, but the name that drum set was Ghost, the band Ghost.
Okay.
And that's a backstory. Their drum tech usually have two drum techs. The other one didn't make it. He was sick. He had the flu or something. And their drum tech came in and he said, "Hey, who knows drums?" Of course, I always get shoved that direction, or Kyle or Billy.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "I'll help you set them up." And I ended up having the tech that night with them. Like there was a lot of set change pieces behind the drums that I had to hand up to them. I helped them set that kit up. It was just a fun time, and I'd never heard of Ghost before. And I'm a fan. I'm not crazy about everything they do, but I was a fan. I mean, I thought after that night it was good. We had a lot of bands that day, though. I mean, I saw so many people. Like I set Disturbed up their drums with Nick, my friend Nick Angle. We set Disturbed up, which I had been on the road with Disturbed during Ozfest, and I've known a lot of their guys for like ever. They're a cool band as well.
Yeah.
But that was right there. That picture is a picture, and that's again, that was Taylor Swift back there. So after that, I ended up getting on this call for Beyonce and Jay-Z, and that's at OSU Stadium. And again, they had built a stage probably almost the size of Taylor Swift's. It wasn't 80 trucks, it was like 40, 50, something like that. After a while, I quit counting. And that was another one of the massive load-ins of us driving the trucks in and out of the stadium a gazillion times until everything was in, and then we did it backwards till everything came out. And I don't think people realize when they go to these concerts, they bitch about the price. We don't see that money a lot, but it is what it is. I mean, it's a big production. You're going to pay to see something like that.
Yeah.
The Beyonce and Jay-Z. And on that tour, their lead driver happened to be my friend David Heath. And my backstory with upstaging, whoop. Uh, uh, he came in and as soon as he came onto the boneyard, I got out of the truck, the flatbed I was driving. He goes, "Oh, dude," he goes, I can't believe I'm seeing you again," because it had been a while since I seen him on Ozfest. It had been probably 8 years. I saw him on another tour at Nationwide Arena, but we got to talking and we talked about how we could make the loadout faster, and we built a separate dock in the boneyard. But we still had to drive the flatbeds all the way down to the stadium, load it, take it back up the hill, back it in, and they unloaded it. And just being around Dave again, I have nothing but respect. I mean, that guy taught me the ins and outs of trucking with, production and all that. And he was a great mentor, man. I can't say more about him.
Mm-hmm. What is this?
That is part of Taylor Swift's load-in right there.
All right.
That was early on when it wasn't even almost finished, and you can see how massive that is. So that's the same stadium, down in the stadium.
Taylor Swift.
That's Taylor Swift that you just passed right there. That's the one we saw. And if you go back to the picture with the drum set, that's Disturbed's drum set right there. That's actually Disturbed drum set. The guy beside it's my friend Nick, which is from Columbus, Ohio, and I haven't talked to him in a while. I think that's Nick, or maybe that's the road manager. I don't know. My eyes are bad. I'm old. But that was a badass kit. And Disturbed played that night. I didn't get to see him because I had been at that stadium for 3 or 4 days straight. And when I went home and went to bed, I crashed through their set, but I did load out. I came back and loaded out the whole festival, which was a several day event.
Mm-hmm.
So then I got working with Promo West a lot. They also have a building here in Columbus. Um, they have them all over. They have one in Pittsburgh. That's some of my friends there. That's Kyle, Denise Wright Clark. I'm not sure of the other two in the picture, but Denise has been around us forever. That girl right there.
Yeah.
She's worked with us since back in Polaris, which was an amphitheater here that we worked probably in the 2000s, 1990 maybe. I don't even know. But that's part of the crew. That's Jay-Z and Beyonce. So look how massive that one was.
All right.
That's a pretty big set,
Yeah.
you know? That's the Stones right there.
That's the Stones.
Yeah, with all the trim around it. And those were video screens beside it.
It's kind of weird to me. Maybe I'm old school, but the people sitting during a Stones show?
Yeah. Yeah, their crowd's kind of older, but there were a lot of younger people there too that night. But it was definitely a silver hair crew. I shouldn't talk like that because I should have probably been there because I'm old.
Yeah, I would love to see the Stones. That's one I have not seen yet.
Yeah, and that's Roadie Dave from Ozfest that worked for Black Label Society. He was also on MTV's Roadies. Um,
Is that you?
that is me.
Okay.
That's me when I was on the road with a beard.
Red hair.
Yeah, it was bleached out because I was in California all the time, and I kept going out in the sun, and it just bleached my hair out, man. It was real fun, not. And that's Lacana Coil. I became friends with them. They're from Italy. They're a metal band from Italy. I became really good friends with them, and that was the day that we left the tour, and they wanted a picture. That we had a great time hanging out with them. I mean, and I've seen them since. I saw them at the Newport one night, and they were excited. We had a good time. That's Live Technologies stage van. It's an SL250. It's a hydraulic stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we dragged that, me and my friend, all over the U.S. I can't tell you how many places I've put that. I've put it on airports for openings. I put it on beaches. We did Guavaween with that, and we had Beyonce was in a band back in the day called Destiny's Child.
Remember that?
We had a lot of bands on it. Molly Hatchet. But it was fun. And that semi truck, I picked out when I got the lease for him. It was a Freightliner, and we decaled the side of it, and I thought it looked pretty cool going down the road. I mean, I don't know. And I drove that truck everywhere, and that truck ended up upside down somewhere out west. Somebody crashed, and the top came off of it.
Really?
Yeah, they survived, but it was a shitty situation. But I don't want to talk about that anymore. Let's just move on. It wasn't me, but it was somebody else. That's another Taylor Swift shot at night with a drone, and you can see how massive that is. I mean, that's a big set.
Well,
I mean,
nobody likes her music anyway.
oh boy, Rod.
I'm kidding, obviously.
I know you are, man. I got you. I know you're kidding.
That's like millions of, yeah. Oh my God.
So, you know, that's my friend VJ. That is at the stadium where I did Ghost. That was the setup when we were actually building the whole thing for the festival.
Yeah.
So, that is James Kochak. That is the Scorpions, and I'm getting ready to talk about that. So this will work perfect. So I'll start talking about the Scorpions. So the Scorpions was one of my favorite bands ever. I'm German and I love their music. They're great people. So they came into Perma West where I worked, which was called the LC. I still work there. And I'll tell you a backstory behind that after I tell you the Scorpion story, because I'm still working for them and they're owned by AEG Productions. Have you ever heard of them?
AEG?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, they're huge. They're like Live Nation. Live Nation's their competitor, so that's how big they are. But that's James Kochak, and that night I got picked to run the camera in the pit. So I basically followed these guys around with a camera on my shoulder, filming them and, going up and, it was fun, man. James was messing with me a little bit. I'd known him from a band called Buster Brown. He came out of Cincinnati. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but he was in a band called Buster Brown. Klaus Mines in that picture singing. He's holding the mic.
Yeah.
And I believe that might have been the song about the wall coming down in Berlin, Winds of Change.
What is James isn't playing drums on that track? Is he?
No, but they played Winds of Change.
Yeah.
And it was like an acoustic version of it. It was badass.
Yeah.
But I got to do the video for that, and I was in awe, man, because I mean, I'm a fan, and when you're a fan of somebody and you're that close to them, I mean, I've been around so many celebrities, it doesn't bother me anymore, and I really don't care. But you know, I just respect them, and maybe that's how I should have phrased that. I respect them, man. I love their music. It was a really really good night for me. I had a great time. So we're going to move on to the Corey Taylor roast. There's a picture of me vacuuming. I think that was Beyonce and Jay-Z, maybe. I can't remember.
Oh, look at that.
That is Sheryl Crow with my son Joey. So, okay, that's Kyle and Nathan Nathan Redmond from Live Technology. Nathan now, the guy in the middle, is one of mine and Kyle's better friends. I mean, and he's funnier than hell. Like that face with that sign Special Forces above it cracks me the hell up. So there's Taylor doing her thing that night. So there's that one. That's Tori and Matt. Tori is a warrior. And so is Matt. They're part of the Silent Army. That girl will work circles around you. I mean, and she's not very big. That is my friend Kenny and my friend Mumcat. I hung around with them in the gods.
Say again. More Silent Army?
Yeah, more Silent Army. This is at the Ohio Theater, and I'm going to start talking about the theater part of this because it takes me more to the present day. There's Jamie Josta.
That metal show dudes.
Yeah, that's metal show. Don Jameson. And what was his name? You told me.
Quarantine.
Okay. Well, Jamie Josta was out with me on Ozfest, and he recognized me because I'm from Philly and he's from somewhere around there. So, Scorpions drums, James Kochak. That's me holding a wrench after fixing something. That's a real wrench. That's not a fake wrench. Somebody thought it was a set piece. No, there are bolts that big on stages. So you better work out because, you know, it's not for the weak. Upstaging truck. Live Technologies truck that I drove. Gretchen Wilson at Joliet Stadium the day after the tornado.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's all the sound in that is what you put to the ground.
We did. We had to bring all that down. The banners, all the equipment on deck had to come down, and we had to chain it down to the stage because if it flew and hit something, and we were parked right behind it, and we didn't have anywhere to go. I slept in my truck that night. It was a horrible night because that tornado probably was a half a mile from us. I thought it was going to suck the whole system over. There's another Taylor Swift. That's the drum tech from Ghost that I helped right there. His name's Dan. Great guy. I mean, I can't, he professional as hell. He loved having me help him that day. I did everything he told me, and we had a great time. That's my friend Travis Lautenschlager. Travis he was working for Five Finger Death Punch. He's worked for In Flames. He's a younger guy, but man, I want to tell you something. This guy picked it up quick. He learned how to be a roadie. And I want to go into this because I've gotten a lot of shit. Now, here's a story too. Let's stay with Travis for now.
All right.
But here's a story. And if you're okay going back to my picture on this, and then we'll go back to that other picture that's after this, will you be able to do that, or what?
Go back to the other one?
Yeah. So that's Travis. That's old man Boggs, Doug Boggs. He's 80 years old or 70 years old, 75 maybe. and he loads trucks. I mean, he's a union guy, a local 12 union guy, tougher than nails, seen everything. I mean, and he's a great guy. I've heard a lot of his stories, and it's an honor to work with people like him because he's so professional. But let's go back to the Travis picture. So Travis worked at Promo West, and he got offered to go out with these bands like Five Finger Death Punch and a lot of big bands. Man, he went on tour with, and man, the dude he picked it up so quick, and he has the. I was getting ready to tell the roadie story, like, and I don't know how he would feel about the story, but some guy came up to me one day, and I was talking about roadies. He goes, we're not roadies, so, and I'm like, what? I'm like, I'm from the 70s, dude. I'm like, we called people that worked in our industries roadies. It's just what we did. We're technicians. And Travis never said that. Travis was always cool. So I was kind of like, I don't know. I got kind of irritated with it because, I will never identify myself. I'm a roadie because I do all of it. I drive,
Yeah.
I set up stages, and I've been on the road. So we're roadies, and the guys are like, I'm a technician. I'm like, where'd you get your degree at? Full Sail? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh boy, because usually they don't know how to load a truck. Usually they don't know that.
They just,
Oh, after that equipment, we're done with it. We have to pack it up and put it in a truck. So, but Travis, that guy there was rock solid, man. Bands that picked him up, I was so happy for him. So I don't know what's the next picture you got up there, man. Boggs, that. Okay, let's stop there. Go back to the pig one. Okay, I got a backstory with this. Promo West again, the LC. It's a roast for Corey Taylor. You know who Slipknot is, don't you?
yeah.
Yeah, I know you do. You're a metalhead.
Yeah.
So they're going to roast Corey Taylor, and my friend Sebastian is the host. And I'm thinking, okay. So I helped set that up that day and was around the whole day because I worked on the stage crew that day. And Sebastian rolls in, a limo brought him in, and I hung around with him most of the day. And he had to go on, and they were roasting Corey Taylor, and they were roasting Sebastian quite a bit. Like, people were getting up to the mic and kind of being. It was a roast, man. I mean, a roast.
Yeah.
And Sebastian got a little sideways about it, but he was cool about it. I mean, he had some words with some people at the end, and he may get mad for me saying anything about it, but it's a true story, and got
I've
a little
heard about
irritated.
these words.
Huh?
I've heard about these words.
Yeah, and got it a little irritated and threw coffee on Don Jameson, which was like, oh man. I work in that building every day.
Yeah.
But we ended up doing the roast. It was such a fun night, and Corey Taylor was so cool to work with. He thanked us all personally. I got a lot of swag out of it, and Sebastian, he did a great job until they started busting his chops, and he got kind of irritated with them a little bit. But overall, the whole thing went over real well. Like it was a great show. I don't know, it might be on YouTube if you look it up. There's me hauling steel. Those are the big red trucks that go down the highway upstaging. My friend Peggy drove one of them. She's still out on the road, but she left them and went with a company called Taylor that hauls entertainment. She's still driving in the entertainment business, except she's had to haul freight for the last year, which, again, we're not used to that. The Arnold Classic. I've done the Arnold Classic probably, I don't know, 50 times or how many of times it's been out. Like I've done it every year since they've had it with Live Technologies. It's a lot of trucks, and there's when Stage Tech started out, which became Live Tech. I'm on the far left over here. The owner there is Rusty, and they were Stage Tech then, and we grew. The company grew like overnight. I mean, they were one of the bigger sound companies in the Midwest, and since I lived in Columbus, they were right here. So, that's that picture for sure. Yeah, there's some more Arnold stuff. You can go ahead and go to the next one. That's the stage.
Get them all.
Okay, let's click out of the pictures. We'll get back to.
We got to stop, JoJo. We're out of time. You're gonna get a part 3.
Oh, boo. Can I say something? Do we have a couple minutes? I can say something on the out.
Wrap it up. Yep.
Okay. I'm still IATSE stagehand. I still work for Promo West. We're a brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? All of us out here are a brotherhood. The people that work in my industry, it's a thankless industry, but we love it. We are the silent army. And this year, with COVID-19, has destroyed the entertainment business. I mean, it's literally ravaged it. I've lost a lot of friends this year that committed suicide, OD'd. A few of them got COVID. A lot of the ones that OD'd were bummed out. I'll mention their names real quick because, I don't feel like I want to leave today without mentioning these guys.
Absolutely.
We have Doug that worked at Promo West, worked for Proton. Chris Astorino, Astro. I taught him how to drive a truck as a kid. He passed away. My friend Chip got hit by a drunk driver, cut him in half. He's gone. Brandon, he was a roadie I taught in Cincinnati, and Josh. They both OD'd. I have a friend named Detroit. He's a union member. He's in the hospital right now. And I'm going to wrap this up quick because I know we're running out of time and I don't want to go too far over. One more person is Dave Johnson. He's been struggling with cancer, but he comes and works with us. He's not afraid to get out here. I want to pass him. Honored to be on the show. Rod is a great host. I guess we're going to do a part 3 because we didn't get through everything.
We will.
I just want to tell everybody out there.
Read your story.
Yeah, this is my story, and I'm telling the story as I remember it. Okay?
Yep.
I'm not perfect. I'm a flawed human being, and we just need to be kind to one another now because we're in a different world. So, Rod, I'm going to pass, and buddy, man, I love this show. Let's keep it going.
Alrighty, absolutely, and thank you for being part of it. That's your story is absolutely
Rock and roll, brother.
vital, and prayers to the family of all the lost. Silent Army.
Yeah, the Silent Army. We wear black and we're behind the scenes, but we lay it on the line. My hands are destroyed. If you look at my hands, they're destroyed from it. We got to go.
All right,
Brother.
till next time.